Good evening, everybody. We are back with this week's episode of Tales from the Tavern. I'm so excited to have you all here. I just saw Nick saying, I love this intro. I love this intro too. I'm such a big fan of it. And it's funny, it always cracks me up when it gets to the part when it's like scrolling through the list of names about the guests and everything, because one of the guests that's listed in there is Yeetabrick something or other, and that was the nickname of a character that I played in another stream, which always cracks me up. So anyway, Yeetabricks.
That's the name.
Yeah, her name was Yeetabricks, and she was known for parkour, so she had basically gotten the nickname Yeetabricks because she yeeted herself everywhere. So anyway, yes, so we are back. I have a great group of guests with us today, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have everybody go around and introduce themselves and tell us a little about who they are and where you can find them online. So we're actually going to start with Chowder.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Taimul Chaudhary, or Chowder. A lot of people know me by my nickname. You can find me on Twitter at Taimul Chaudhary. I also am a part of Dice Populi, a real play D&D podcast, and I am also a part of the Common Geeking program, which is this book club for geek culture. I also run their Twitter account at Geeking Program, and yeah, you know, I like cartoons, I like video games, and I exist.
You're a real person.
He just fades away.
It was very funny when I reached out to Chowder about coming on. Chowder was like, I've never done a stream like this before, and I'm like, it's okay. A lot of people coming on haven't, so we promise not to be too scary. Well, thank you so much for coming on and joining us tonight. I'm excited to have you on. And next,
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. And next we have Hal, who is coming to us from Shard Tabletop.
Yeah, happy to be here. I'm Hal Howard. Let's see. Software geek, I guess, is the easiest explanation. I spent 30 years of my life doing commercial software. This is the second startup. This one's a lot more fun than the last one. The last one was business software. Stuff. But we managed to sell it and make a little money, so now we can afford to do the fun stuff, which is what Shard Tabletop's all about. It's basically me and my best friend who's been playing together since 1982, high school sort of time frame. We're both ex-Microsoft execs, and we decided to put some of our spare time into doing a new tabletop that I think you'll find is a little easier to use and a little more friendly than most of the ones out there. And so we're been in open beta since last May. We're doing a Kickstarter live right now, and happy to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you here. I was telling Hal beforehand, I've gotten to use Shard. I know a couple other people, both here and in chat, have gotten to use it before, and the general consensus is that it's amazing. So we can definitely talk about that a little bit more. If you guys have questions about it too, this is a great time to start throwing those into chat. And next we're going to go over to Ryan.
Hey, I'm Ryan Mossbarger. It's great to be here again. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a cast member on the Dice Populi podcast. I also run all the social media and stuff for them. I've been playing tabletop RPGs, probably rock solid for like the past 5-6 years. Super into them, trying to get even more into them. And yeah, if you want to find me, you can find me on my Twitter, Ryan_MOSSB, or on the @DicePopuli Twitter. And just super excited to be back. It's always fun coming on here.
Yeah, I know. I'm super excited to have you. So I love having you on.
Thank you.
Nick, let's go to you next.
Oh, hey.
Because I saw you taking a sip of something, so it's your turn.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name is Nick. I was introduced to the TTRPG community when our podcast, Know Your Role, started up just a little bit over a year ago. I play Relic on the Warforged cleric of the party. Know Your Role, for anyone who hasn't seen, we are on a long-term hiatus for the foreseeable future, but all 30 episodes are still available for streaming. You can find those on our Twitter, which Wolf's Blood was kind enough to link in chat. Additionally, I am actually going to be starting up my own Twitch channel, hopefully in the next month. I can't share a lot of details, not because I'm being secretive, but because I haven't figured everything out just yet. But the goal will be to run a TTRPG variety streaming show that will focus more on running one-shots with players, different people from throughout the community, as opposed to a long continuous campaign. So something I'm really excited about, and I will share more details once I know more.
Awesome. Well, that is very exciting, and I'm looking forward to finding out more details.
Yeah.
And Anna.
Hi guys, I'm Anna, also known as Sanctum Cosplays. You can unfortunately find just the limited amount of cosplays, since everything is shut down right now, through my Twitter or my Instagram, which is linked through my Twitter. I am also a TTRPG player both on Nerd League Gaming and Dice Tyrants. We just finished up possibly one of my favorite, if not my favorite ever campaign on Dice Tyrants. 24 episodes. Don't ask me how many times I cried. We don't need to talk about it. So I'm currently in between some streams right now, but yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Last time I was here, I didn't get to have a conversation with Luna because Luna had some family things, so I'm really excited to get to be here with you now. Not that, Yogs wasn't a great host.
Yes, yeah, no, he's a good guy, but no, I felt really bad that night. I was like, I was really looking forward to all these people, and then, yeah, family stuff came up, and I wasn't able to make it, so we had a great friend of the stream pop in and host that night, so I am glad that you are able to be here. I'm glad it worked out that our schedules lined up again, so thanks so much. All right. So just a reminder for chat, if you're new here or anything, we take all of our questions from chat. So feel free to drop any questions that you have for any and all of our guests right into chat. We'll have a moderator get them to us so we can make sure that we answer them. Also, if you missed last week, then you may have missed the fact that we now have a channel point redemption called, what is it called? It's called like Ask My Question Next. So for 1,000 channel points, you can have your question bumped up to the top of the queue, so we can get to your question immediately after whatever it is that we're talking about. So feel free to use that. There's 3 redemptions for that per stream. We did put a limit on it just because we never know how long any conversation is going to go on at any point. So take a look for that if you are interested. So let's see. I'm gonna start out with the question that we were actually talking about right beforehand, because you could tell right away that it automatically divided everybody. So, for the record, do your dice have to match?
Emphatically, yes. Like, there's no way.
I'm
Nah, man.
gonna say no, not really. Just have a bunch of
match.
They just have a bunch of mismatched dice. It's fine, because it's like, adds character. The chaos, like, you got one kind of dice that has this kind of vibe, and another kind of dice that has this kind of vibe, and it's fine, man. It's fine.
You gotta buy a set for each character.
Yes. I also agree with what Ryan was saying earlier, that the only time it's acceptable is if it's a power move and you're like, look how many dice I have to roll. Then they can, not match because it's just a sheer power move at that point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't expect someone to have 14 matching D6s for their level 8 fireballs. Don't fact check me on that. I don't think I got those numbers right.
I'm trying to think how many D6s I have that match.
Someone Google it.
But like, the thing is, I have this comically
additional.
large D6. It doesn't really match with anything, but it's fun. I want it. I like it.
Yeah, see, that's different,
There you
I
go.
think. If you have, like, the big, like a large, like Nick was showing off his dire D20 earlier. Like, those don't have to match with anything, but... all of mine match, and not only do they match, they all get stored in, like, their own separate, like, none of them are mixed at all, ever.
Oh, what?
Bad
That's
juju,
serious.
man. Bad juju.
I
Okay, well,
do have
go
match
ahead.
sets for my character. for when a DM, I've got like a big bag of like lots of stuff for a DM, right? For when I'm running a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
my wife.
keep. Oh, sorry, you go.
Oh no. Oh, go ahead, Chowder.
Yeah, no, I just keep everything in this like old watch box.
Yeah.
Because
No,
the watch was fancy enough.
I've got way too many dice in my drawer, but I was saying my wife just outed me in chat by saying that I have a massive set of matching D6 for my fireball, which I do, but I don't expect everyone to have one of those for themselves. And that's only because I was at the gaming store and it just happened to be like a whole little box of D6s that were all fireball colored. And
Oh,
so-
well,
Ooh,
yeah, then
that's-
you have to have those.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
that's too bad.
I
fireball
had
colored.
to.
It's like a law or something. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
Yeah, no, I am a very big fan though of buying dice to fit the character though. It's actually one of the most important parts of building a D&D character for me. If it's like a one shot, I'll usually pick from my existing dice, or else I would have way too many. But yeah, it's kind of fun to like get into that mindset.
I have
New campaign, new set of dice.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
me, it's although I'm super traumatized that this year it may not happen. I get a new set at PAX East every year, so I was lucky. I was able to get in just under the wire in 2020. It was literally like the last con that happened before the universe shut down, and because it was like the last weekend of February going right into March. And like 2 days later, they were like, oh, there was a big outbreak of COVID-19 in Boston, but it was like at the other end of the city. So thankfully it wasn't where I was, but yeah, so I'm like, I hope I can get some more dice at PAX East, because
Yeah.
that would be sad, but
Just gotta get your bubble suit.
yeah, I know. I have, I'm like, they
Yeah.
literally all live right here. These are all my D6s, and then I have one set in here, I have another set in here, and then...
Showing off the arcane spectacle
Yeah,
gear
I
here.
am. And then in this dice bag, I have like another 5 sets because the dice bag has pockets in it.
Mhm.
It has pocket.
It does have pockets. I'll show it off as soon as I get it open. I found this person on Etsy. No, I didn't. I found her on Twitter. I take that back. But it has pockets on the inside.
Yep.
So
that's
each
pretty
set
cool.
has its own
I got
pocket.
one of those.
Nice. Yeah, no, Luna, I feel you there. I went to
That's in the different pockets. That's my DM dice bag, and I actually have different dice types in each pocket.
Yes.
Right. So
There you
I
go.
got that same bag. Like,
Yeah.
6-siders in one pocket, 8-siders in another, that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Like, seems like you're using it to separate your sets. So
Mine separates my
different,
sets
different
except
usage pattern.
well, yeah, sort of. Although I do have a few. I've played the Dragon Age TTRPG system before, and I have 2 sets of dice for that, which are just 3. Each set is 3 mixed, 3 D6s, 2 that match and 1 that's different because you need a different one for that game. So, yeah.
Yeah, Luna. Hillary has the same setup as you. I'm going in and stealing her dice for this, but she has one and it's got like star constellations on the inside.
Oh, that's
I don't know if
pretty.
It's coming through because it's a little blurry, but yeah, she does the same thing. I think she keeps all of her numbered dice in different pockets. Yeah, sorry, Hillary. It's just it's right
Busted.
here.
There you go.
I mean, you put me out about my fireballs, so. And here's a giant D20 she has that when it lands on a crit, it actually flashes red.
Oh, I have one of those.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh wow.
Oh, a little while back, there was something that was traveling across Tabletop RPG Twitter. There was D20s that would light up and do specific things for each number.
Oh, that's cool.
It blew up. It got like 1 million likes, and then never saw it again. I wonder if that's ever really happening. It looked so cool. I'm sure they would have been like $100 each.
Yeah.
But so cool. It would also, I think, in all the unnecessary Internet of Things, it would then Bluetooth to your phone the roll number. so I guess if you were using some kind of program, it would then roll it to, like, I guess they were hoping for like Roll20 integration and like other tabletop stuff. So if you rolled it on physically, it would pang onto the screen. But
That would be
if
cool.
I could get some of those.
That would be very cool. All right. Well, I'm seeing some questions coming in now from chat. The first one, of course, coming from David Tilstra. And his question is, what is one of your most memorable crit successes or crit failures?
You're gonna make me remember specific rolls?
I always remember the ones where I roll a critical, right? But then the damage dice come up all ones.
Oh.
So
It was that.
all the damage. Those are the ones I remember, right? Like the ones that were magnificent, where the dice came out great, don't ever remember those. But when the dice all come up ones after you roll a critical, I'm like, I could have done more damage on a regular hit. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
You know,
without going off on a... Oh, go ahead.
I do have a fun little crit fail story. So I was playing as this warlock, and Archfey warlock, and he had mask of many faces, so he could disguise himself. And I was doing reconnaissance in this dungeon, and what I did was like I disguised myself as like a zombie version of myself to like trick all the other like zombies and skeletons around. I was in a room full of them, I was in like this crypt, and like all the zombies started coming out, and like I was trying to like just sort of walk my way out nonchalantly. Crit fail, nat 1, and it's just like everyone looks towards me, and I'm in the middle of the room, and I'm sticking out like a Thor's thumb, and it's like, fuck.
Yeah, it's like a scene out of The Walking Dead or something where they're trying to like blend in, and somebody coughs or sneezes or something, and they all like turn and look at the same time.
Honestly, it's more like that scene from Emperor's New Groove, where like Cusco's like, ha! And then all the panther just looks.
Yeah.
Panther that just look at him. Yeah.
I like that comparison better, actually. I think one of my most memorable crit successes was actually it was a crit success and a crit failure, and I rolled the crit failure and my player rolled the crit success, and it was Joe, who's actually the DM of Know Your Role, in our home game, and he was, without getting into the specifics, doing a wildly reckless charge on the big bad evil of our campaign, and I was like, all right, there's no way this is going to work, Joe. Like, he's way more powerful than you, but sure, go ahead. And so Joe rolled like a nat 20, and I was like, okay, all right, well, wait a second. Let's see. And I came up with some, I don't remember what the mechanic was at the time, but I'm like, I'm going to roll to see if he can react. And I rolled and got a natural 1. And I just had to respect the dice and understand that it was meant to be. And he ended up, he didn't kill him, but he tackled him out of like a 3rd floor window. And he's an Aasimar, so then he like burst wings forth, and the two of them had like a Dragon Ball Z style fight in the sky, and it was such a cool moment.
I love that.
That is badass.
It required me to rewrite the whole rest of the arc of the campaign.
Oh no!
And I remember him telling me, "I'm really sorry, man," and I was like, "No, man, that was just an example where like I trusted the dice, and I some DMs might fudge the rolls and been like, oh hey, sorry man, he dodged out of the way, but I ran with it, and it completely changed the direction of that campaign. So that was one of the most memorable ones for me.
I'm struggling to remember any time I've ever rolled a dice ever at this point, so...
I have one story. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's the one that's coming to mind right now. So we were playing Pathfinder with a friend. It was like a home game. And it was like a big sprawling campaign, and we had just come upon like a small town that we could do some trading in. And in Pathfinder, it's all about getting the right gear at the right time and making sure your item progression's right. So I was like, I was a magus. I was like, I need a mithril buckler. Like, need a mithril buckler, and I need a mithril chain shirt, because otherwise I'm gonna get my ass handed to me in like a level and a half. So we go to this town, and I'm searching long and hard, and I think the GM at the time, he was trying to go for like a pretty low level magic setting, so he was kind of like trying to get in the way. I remember rolling pretty high to find somebody. He's like, okay, yeah. And then I talk to these people and I look at the stuff, and it's way like I think on Pathfinder in the book, it's supposed to be like 200 gold or something like that, or like max 1,000 gold. He had it for like 5,000 gold. Did not have that much money. So I started to walk away, and he's like, "Hey, feel your pocket." And I was like, "Oh, what's wrong with my pocket?" He's like, "They stole all your money when you had your back turned." And I was like, "Oh, come on." And I make it back. I went out on my own. I make it back to my friends, and then I'm like, "We gotta go. Some bad people are here. They just hurt some people, and we gotta get them." I roll pretty good on the persuasion check, and he's like, "Well, you don't know where they are." And I was like, "I have." I took one of the things where you can get like a bird companion, a familiar. I was like, "My bird's got plus 15 to perception. Hopefully that's enough." And he's like, "Okay, yeah." I was like, "I rolled it, natural 20," and he's like, just write some stuff on his notes. I think he was hoping for it to be like a long-term comeback. But immediately we followed these people out. I wasn't able to convince everybody in the party to come with me. And then we stopped them in the middle of the road. And then we had this huge battle where it was really lopsided, but we just barely eked out a win. I was able to get my money back, and then I found out the chain shirt was fake.
Oh.
So it was like the biggest like right turn, left turn, right turn, left turn. Oh, we got it. Hey, I got my money back and all this stuff. None of the crap was magical. Like, it was all just fakes to like bring in dummies like myself and steal their money. But no, I remember that nat 20 just because he was like, God, whatever. He starts writing down a couple of notes about something. He's like, all right, you find them. They're like a mile out, but you need a horse and a fast one. And we were able to like organize stuff really quick. But yeah, I remember that one. That was a good one.
Oh my gosh.
I do want to update. My boyfriend is an almanac of everything 5e, and it's 13d6 for a level 8 fireball, in case anyone was curious. I texted him when we had that conversation, and I just got a text back 13d6. So in case anyone wanted to know, you need 13d6.
Oh, wait, I had 13.
There you go. Are they all the same color, though?
They are. I got one little extra one just that randomly got in a dice bag one time.
My most memorable Nat 1, I don't necessarily know if I can count it, because the system I was playing is Aether and Steamworks, which allows you to re-roll natural failure. Well, allows you to re-roll any roll if you have an ace, or since it was a streamed game, the audience could also donate for it. But we were in what was the beginning of the final battle, and my dumbass was like, I'm gonna crawl to the top of these rocks to see all the evil people probably running away because we beat them up. So I stand on the top of the rocks and I met with a firing squad. And I'm like, oopsie doopsie. And the moment the firing squad goes to hit me, I hear a voice behind me, and it's the daughter of the BBEG, who's also just bad news. My party tries to like scramble, and they turn the stone that I'm standing on to sand, and I start falling. But I get a nat 1 to resist the attack from this person, and our DM just starts giggling. And I'm like, oh, this is where I die. Like, this is where, like, this isn't even the end of the season, like, this is where my character dies. And it was the worst nat 1, because our game master gives you the choice anytime you roll a crit fail or a crit success to do something that either affects you alone or affects the party. So, me trying to be the selfless person that my character was, I'm like, it'll affect me. And he's like, cool, this is gonna do so much damage. And I'm like, hold on a second, wait, Ty, no. And luckily the audience donated to let me re-roll that crit fail. But that was probably the scariest moment. Like, I have a Fitbit on, and my heart rate was easily at like 185 during that entire scene. And I was like, oops. So that's probably my most memorable crit fail.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
Heart rate monitors during play. That sounds like a good idea.
Listen.
Maybe Shard should
scary.
incorporate
Love that.
Shard should incorporate a connection between like a heart rate monitor and the virtual tabletop, so the DM can see what's going on with the players.
And
That's too much
Incorporate that into like a Call of Cthulhu
Keep the
campaign.
heart rate monitor right next to the character.
Yeah, you can tell if your players are lying or not. You don't even have to roll insight. You can be like, I don't think I buy that, actually.
My GM, who's in the chat, literally just said, damn audience saving players, so we know how he felt about that reroll.
He did an Aether and Steamworks one-shot with us a few weeks ago. here on this channel, and I got to play in it. And this was not a dice roll thing. This was another player thing. And my character had one of her arms was a mechanical arm. And one of the players was like, "Can I borrow your arm to do the thing?" And I'm like, "Only if I'm going to get it back." Did she get her arm back? Oh no, it got destroyed. But in the end, her arm ended up growing back. So that was cool, I guess. But
Such is life.
Yeah, but it was just really, it was just really funny. I told Mac and Jack, "What the hell is the thing?" We had to escape from a pimp slap. No, we had to escape from a space station, and the thing, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the conduit, basically, to get from one place to another broke, and so they wanted to use my arm as a grappling hook.
Good use for a metallic arm.
Yeah, I mean, it worked, but it was very, very entertaining. So speaking of Lot Evenstar,
No.
oh, I'm gonna ask it.
I don't want it.
I didn't say you had to answer it. His question is, have you ever had a character leave, move on, or die? And if so, how did that impact you?
Just to clarify, meaning did a character we play have to leave
Yes.
or die, or did one of the players? Okay.
Knowing Ty, that's exactly what he was asking. But I guess, I mean, if it was another party member, I would say go ahead and answer that too.
I mean, knock on wood, I've never had a character die.
Wow.
So, been real lucky. And the only time one did, it kind of was supposed to happen in story and it ended up getting, like, put back together, but never died. I did, as a DM, I one time had a player that he was a little bit older than the rest of us, wasn't quite feeling the vibe, it was just kind of introductory game to 5e, and he thought he might like it. His wife liked it, but he didn't. I did have to kill him off because he's like, "Yeah, I'm not interested in playing. You can do whatever with my character. You can just kill him." And I was like, "Do you have any preference for how?" He's like, "Yeah, just do it like gruesome, like make it worth it." And I'm like, "All right." So they were just about to save like this impending horde from like taking over this capital city. And they fight him off, but then they kind of rally the troops. But then they notice that one of their people is gone, and that's him. And then they're able to track him down. And then they see him get basically taken out by the big bad evil guy. And then they find him later in like a funeral pyre, like about to be burned. And then they have like their moment. But yeah, I mean, I tried to make it as like gruesome as possible, I suppose, to a certain extent. Yeah. I mean, it happens. Some people just click with the game. Sometimes they don't click with the game. It just really depends.
I had a character who died in a one-shot. So, like, he was a ranger, and, like, we were fighting a gelatinous cube, right? And I was, like, firing arrows at the thing, like, thinking, okay, I'm outside of its move. Its speed, like, the number of feet it can move. And, I failed to take into account the dash action, because the gelatinous cube doesn't need to attack you to do damage. It just needs to engulf you, basically. So the thing moves and then moves again, and I get caught in the cube. I suffocate and then get dissolved in acid. And
Well then.
yeah, that was not a good day for Kirk Carrar. Aarakocra Ranger with a great sense of fashion.
I never knew him, but I wish I did. He sounds pretty great.
Yeah.
I think one of the most impactful character deaths, it wasn't my character, and that's why I'm cheating with this answer, but it was a character played by our friend Beans, who plays Jeff on Know Your Role, my wife Hillary, and a couple other friends. It was a home game. He played a dragonborn fighter named Juan Tinscale, and he was like very cocky and confident and like had a ton of swagger. And we were in a fight that it was very clear we were not meant to win. You know, when the DM throws that guy at you and you're like, guys, like, did you say a 23 misses? Okay, we're getting the hell out of here. That cockiness is ultimately what brought his character down, because he wanted so desperately to be the last person to hit the boss before we left. And so our barbarian had hit him and then had started to run. And we were like, all right, Beans, like, we're going, like, we're leaving. And he was like, I want to get one more hit in, which meant he couldn't take the disengage action for anyone not familiar with 5e, which meant even though he got the hit, when he ran away, the boss got an opportunity attack, and it was a crit. And it was a boss that had some crazy feature like reckless or something that basically ended up tripling his damage. And our DM rolled so high. It was so high. And ended up killing him in a single blow. And we all had to leave. And it was devastating, I think, specifically because it came out of nowhere. Like, we all assumed, like, hey, yeah, we're gonna get away. This is the DM just scaring us. We were all like laughing like 2 minutes before that, like, oh, haha, here we go. And then it was just so sad because like it was a little bit different than one where you're building up to that and you know, like, all right, one of us is gonna die. So that one kind of hit me and made me think in the future as a DM, like, not necessarily that I'm going to do exactly that, but, you know, finding ways to like make a character or a boss that's threatening, especially when the players aren't taking it seriously. It made it hit a lot more.
Mine is actually the exact opposite of your experience, Nick. My character was a class called Fate Broken, which its final move, if you choose to use it, self-destructs you. You get super powerful really fast, and then after that scene is done, you have 5 minutes and you disintegrate. So I knew from the very beginning when I made that character that she was going to die. But it did not hit me until it was being described as her entire body, like, locked up. She could not move. She could not get to her friends to say goodbye. She watched the one person who in her life, like, saved her when she was really young walk away into a different area without being able to call out for help, and then just watched her slowly disintegrate. And it was gut-wrenching to sit there and be so close to all of my party members, but unable to be with them, to, like, be around the people who finally made her feel strong in a way. And it hurt so much. So even with, like, that knowledge of, like, okay, I'm gonna build a character who's just gonna, you know, punch, self-destruct, it's still just killed, because I don't think I was taking it fully seriously, where I'm just like, it'll be fine, and then it happened, and I'm like, but wait, hold on. So yeah, that's the stream that I cried for, I think if you time it, 45 minutes at the very end, I think, right around there.
Yeah.
Ooh, rough.
Sorry.
I had a character.
So I'm one of those forever, you know, so I don't kill characters that I don't have enough characters that I've played to actually have one killed. I play mostly in one shots. I don't think I've played a long campaign in a long time. But, you know, a few years ago when my kids were both teenagers, I remember, you know, my daughter sacrificing her then character. And basically, you know, it was devastating for everybody until after the session she looks up and says, yeah, I was just done playing a cleric. I want to move on to something else. And it's like, you'd be like, what? Like, everybody's like devastated the character dies, like, including me, right? And all this sort of stuff. And then, you know, she's like, oh no, I was just done. It was time to move on to a different character.
Yeah. I've had a couple of characters die. One, I didn't so much feel it, like, because I was really attached to the character. It was more so because I was furious at the DM. This was, like, way before streaming. Like, I don't even think, like, pre-Twitch stuff was even a thing at that point. And my now ex-husband was the DM. And I was playing a Centaur Ranger. And we were in, like, I don't know, some crypt somewhere. And we walk into a room and there's a sarcophagus in there. Well, my character was strong, but not exactly smart. And so I'm like, well, I'm the only one strong enough here to open this sarcophagus. So I open the sarcophagus, and out pops a vampire who casts Slay Living, and boom, I'm dead. And I almost flipped the table. I was so mad. So that was just more like being super irritated with the situation. And then I had a character, one that actually, like, I felt. I had a character that I was playing on a stream, but her leaving the stream and leaving the group wasn't done on camera. It was done behind the scenes in an RP chat that we had together. And basically through the whole stream, she had always felt like, I'm not part of this group. I shouldn't be here. I'm not right for this. And so ultimately, what ended up happening was they were out. There had been a big fight. One of the characters lost their weapon, and it was a mishmash of two systems. It was a World of Darkness / Savage Worlds campaign, and so there was like guns and things like that, and so somebody's gun had gotten broken in the course of the fight. It jammed or whatever, I can't remember now. And so my character was a werewolf and didn't really need a gun. She just had one because there were times that she wasn't walking around with giant claws. And so she basically left, and when she left her Glock on the bedside table of one of the other people and left a note and just said, hope this will tie you over until you can get a new one, and just grabbed her bag and left. And it was awful. I was in tears when I wrote it. I was in tears. I had to leave the stream because of my own like personal scheduling issues, but it was devastating for me to have to give that up and to have to leave, and it was very tough. And I was in the middle of sort of a friendship that was collapsing, and so there was a lot of sort of stuff that I had to work through along with it, so it was really, really hard.
That's intense.
It was. Let's see. Does anybody else have any other ones that they want to share, or am I good to move on to the next question?
That's good.
All right.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
I don't want to talk about it anymore. So the next question actually comes from Hillary. Hillary would like to know, which of your characters has taught you the most about yourself? Also, if you had to pick a class for your pet, or those that have them, what would it be and why?
Bear, what would you be? Bear, come here. No, okay, he doesn't want to talk.
I was gonna say, sounds like a barbarian totem of the bear to me.
He's okay.
That's true.
Though the cliche is that barbarians are dumb, I think he's too dumb to even be. I love him to death, but Lord, is he dumb.
I think Hillary and I have tried to figure out what our dog Milo would be, and I don't know if I can pin down what he is. Because some days he's like a rogue.
Right back. Yeah, I'll be right back real quick. Just
Okay.
Chatter. Because some days he's like a rogue. He's like really sneaky and gets into stuff, and then other days he's like a very relaxed, wise old wizard that just sleeps on the couch. So maybe he's a multi-class.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
My boyfriend just texted me barbarian, so that's his vote for what our dog is.
I don't have an animal, but honestly, if I had my choosing, I want something like a cleric or a paladin. Because if I go down, I want the animal to be able to bring me back up. I think would be the most important thing for a companion.
Want a support character.
Yeah, I want a support character. You gotta have a good support character. I'm obviously the main.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's fair.
Yeah, exactly. your pet be a bard or a cleric.
Exactly.
Yeah. How about you, Hal? Do you have any pets?
Same here, no pets. Rabbits running around the yard, but I'm pretty sure they're commoners. I don't think they have an adventuring class.
they could
Bobcat that wanders to it through occasionally is definitely a rogue, because when he gets sneak attack on them, they're done.
Yeah, I think for the first part of Hillary's question, characters I've learned the most from, I think it was that taught us something. I'm trying to find where the question was, but I think the character that I've played that kind of taught me the most about myself is probably my character. It was actually in the campaign that I just referenced where Beans' character died, and he's an old gnome wizard named Felix. For anyone who watches Paradise RPG, he's kind of similar to Wiswick. But the thing that was interesting about playing this character is I wrote him with this backstory that he had a daughter. And at the time, I did not have a child. And I didn't even, like Hillary and I weren't planning on having a child. And we played that campaign for so long that I played Felix long enough to go from like, you know, me, this guy who just put a character having a daughter in as like a point of the backstory, towards we played that campaign literally right up until we had our now almost year-old daughter, and it like it changed the way that I RP'd as him, to the point that like in like one of the scenes that I felt myself getting much more emotional playing like Felix talking about his daughter, because Nick was like thinking in the future about having a daughter. And so it was one of those experiences that I don't think I would have been in that headspace, you know, months in advance, if not for like being put into a scenario where, like, without getting into the details of the story, like my daughter's like life was in trouble. And it just, so I don't know if I necessarily taught me something about myself, as just like allowed me to like experience that thought process in a way I probably wouldn't have otherwise.
That's deep.
Yeah, so I hope that wasn't too heavy. I mean, it's a good thing. In the end, it was a good thing.
It's totally true. Actually, it reminds me. It reminds me of something. I was at PAX East one year, and I was sitting in a panel, and one of the panelists had talked about they had recently played the game Heavy Rain, and then they went back and played it again after they became a parent, and just how completely different their playthrough was emotionally because of not being a parent versus being a parent. So I think it's totally not inaccurate that it would have changed the way that you RP your character.
So completely unrelated, but I can't help but like think of that like YouTube video showing like a glitch where like dude yells out Sean and just keeps yelling Sean.
I know what you're talking about. It's from Heavy Rain. It's literally just like 10 minutes of the video game character. He can't stop screaming the name Sean.
Yeah.
Sean. I'm sorry. I don't know why my brain does this.
It happens. It's all good.
I think I'm kind of in the same boat with Nick, where I don't necessarily think I've had a character that taught me something, but I've had a character like help me get through something that has happened. I don't know how familiar any of you guys are with the Powered by the Apocalypse game Monster Hearts. But I was in a Monster Hearts stream where I played the Mortal, which is, if you ever play the game, do not choose the Mortal unless you are willing to deal with some very deep shit. Like, the whole point of the Mortal's abilities is to make excuses for people who either physically or emotionally hurt them, and you get more power from that. So I spent, listen, the game is really dark. It's super fun, but you have to be in the right group of people, otherwise it could go downhill super, super fast. But I played Immortal against my game master's, like, 4-time warning of, like, hey, I know the shit you've dealt with, maybe you shouldn't. And I'm like, nah, it'll be fine, I'm with friends. Should have listened. But the Mortal character, the whole also point of the Mortal is you have, like, a love interest that you get a lot of power from, like, working in dynamic. This love interest just so happened to be the player who is playing the Queen, whose entire job is to manipulate people and be a dick. So I purposely put myself in the position to be manipulated and just it was a very hard time, but I think through it actually helped me grow a lot from hard relationships I had before that. I would never do it again, like, at all, but I definitely think playing that character helped facilitate in a way. So there you go, Nick. Now you don't have to worry about being the only one who brought something dark. I got you.
Thanks.
Dork. Dork.
I feel like a lot of us, I shouldn't say a lot of us, I feel like inevitably there's always somebody in every game that has something that's like, I'm working through this thing, and this game is going to help me get through it. You know, it
That's
just
why
seems
so
to
many-
be that way.
It's why so many characters have daddy issues in their backstory. We're all working through it. We're all working through something, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. On that note, I do want to say, like, I know we've probably talked about it on Tales in the past, but I always encourage people, if you've always had characters with tragic backstories, just try making a character who had a perfectly lovely life, and they're just going out on adventures for fun as a hobby, because it changes it. Like, it's very uplifting to not have to think about, like, oh, the bandit captain that killed everyone in my village, he's gonna come back, you know, like, to just play a character who's like, yeah, I'm having a great time with my friends, and you know, after this I'm gonna go back home and see the wife. I mean, I just think it can be a very different experience than this, like, stereotypical everyone is like an orphan or
Edgelord.
Yeah.
I've taken that advice. So we're home campaign. My friend of mine has started up. We're just gonna do some Curse of Strahd. It's gonna be Eberron themed. Everybody is like picking the most edgelordy characters possible, like very deep drama, like da 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 da. And mine is like this happy-go-lucky drow that's only like 86 years old. So maybe like 14 or 15, so just kind of plucking along, having fun, doing whatever they want to do, and I'm just waiting for like the arcane gestalt horror to start happening. She's just kind of like plucking along.
I have a character named Grizz that I play in Pathfinder, and he's basically like this cavalier who was raised that way, and like just doesn't really have any kind of trauma to him. He's just like a big dumb idiot who goes on adventures and like helps people out even when they don't want his help. And he's like a very Don Quixote-esque character, and like the reason for his creation was like my friend was like running this campaign that we'd all be in like an adventurers guild, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a character who's like very orientated towards adventure. And so I have this dude who's good at like fighting, who's good at like dungeoneering, but is stupider than the horse he rides.
Wait, didn't we play a very brief Starfinder campaign where Grizz made an appearance in the future?
Yeah, no, that's the exact same character. I mean, the idea of like this guy who was an idiot by like the standards of the medieval times being in space, the future, was hilarious. And I wish that thing lasted a little longer, because like, one of the ideas I had for him was that like his lifetime of skill as a cavalier, for no good reason, translated really well into piloting. Cars, motorcycles, starships, alien creatures. If it can be ridden, he can ride it. And there's just not a good explanation why.
Chowder, you would have liked a magic item that Relic got on Know Your Role. They were the matte black boots and hat that allowed me to mount any creature if they failed a wisdom save, and treat them as a mount for 10 minutes. Technically, it said a mount any mountable creature, but I was like, I mean, what isn't mountable? And I mounted. Tolmac is in chat. He animated this or drew this. I jumped on a giant like Naga snake woman and did a full-on Old Town Road reference, and it was absolutely
That's
awesome.
epic.
Yeah, Tolmac.
Oh
I'll try to link it in chat in a bit if Tolmac doesn't do it himself. But yeah, I think Chowder, your Cavalier would have appreciated that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I had a character similar to like the happy-go-lucky. I did a one-shot, one of the Carefall Irregulars with Lawful Great Adventures, and my character was just like this, you know, same kind of thing, like this super happy-go-lucky, like, street magician who, you know, like, really her goal was to, like, you know, if she saw a kid crying in the street, she'd do, like, some illusion so that they would be like, ooh, you know, like, and stop crying or whatever. But yeah, like, you know, we were in the middle of, like, this giant... So I was in the campaign where, if you listen to any of them, throughout most of them, they had this glass skiff. I was in the episode where we actually got the glass skiff.
Yeah,
And
me too.
yeah. And so you may remember, Ryan, when we were racing through the woods and we're trying to figure out how are we going to keep tabs on them, my character is like, well, I'm just going to light it up so we can see it and it's really bright. And so he's like, okay, how do you do that? So basically I just kind of frame it like this and I just go whoop, poof, and it turns bright pink. And he's like, so basically your magic is Photoshop? And I'm like, yes.
What is illusion but Photoshop for reality?
Yeah. So it was, I mean, like, that was how she solved stuff, was like, she's like, I'm going to turn it pink. Like, why not?
You said that was, you guys got the glass skiff though?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Ryan and I did that episode together.
I based my character, that drow, kind of on your note from playing in Carefall Irregulars. Like, I love that character so much that I wanted to emulate it in some way. It was perfect.
I feel so special now.
Yeah.
She was super sweet. I would not be sad to bring her back at some point.
Yeah, I need to get back. I want to bring back my character. I had so much fun on that Carefall Irregulars thing.
Those were so great. If
Look,
you don't
someday I want to play Starfinder again. Bring back Grizz.
Yeah, no. Carefall was a lot of fun. It's funny that you guys mentioned the skiff because the character I played in Carefall was like a 7.5 foot tall fallen angel named Justice.
I definitely listened to that episode not too long ago.
Had to sit in the front seat of the skiff, and I described like his knees being up to his chest and like holding his sword, and trying just desperately to fit.
Yeah.
Because he described it as being very sleek.
Yeah.
I was like, this sounds like a sports car, and I'm playing like a guy that's bigger than the Rock, so I don't know how this is gonna work.
Yeah, he's like, it's like a Bugatti, but
crystal.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah, if you don't listen to the whole thing, if you just go back and listen to the episodes that are labeled as Carefall Irregulars, like that alone are just super fun, and it's a totally separate entity from it's set like 1,000 years before their main storyline. So
using a different system, using Quest, which got me into Quest.
That's a great system.
I love it. It's so fun.
Yeah, I'm enjoying Quest so far. Like I'm doing a campaign with Brian DMing it, and a lot of cool stuff about it.
Yeah,
we're doing a Patreon only campaign using
Nice.
Quest, so it's a lot of fun.
Nice. Hal, you said you've been playing since the 80s. Do you have is there a character over that time, since then, that like one specific character that you felt you learned the most from?
Wow. So, I mean, everybody remembers their first character that they played, right? So I was, when we were kids, when I started playing in 1980, I was the DM for most of the time. But, in the campaigns where I did get to play, I played, at the time, all elves were sort of fighter magic users, basically, right? So they all had split class, or at least most of them did. I can't remember which rule set it introduced it in, but this character was his eventual name was Glorfindel of the Nine Lives, because he died so many times over the years and kept getting resurrected, right?
That's awesome.
That kind of stuff, because he was, for a character that should have been, relatively conservative, think long-lived elf, he was just always up front charging, like, drop kick a door, do whatever, and that's freeing as a player, right? To just not care, right? And go forward, right? Not be that cautious. And that sort of stuff. So that was a lot of fun way back. And then the one I just played a session with yesterday, one shots that I play a lot of one shots in is a barbarian. Right, his name is Unkindi Ko. He wields an axe in each hand. He's a big tattooed barbarian dude, right? And I think his stats say he's of average intelligence, but like I basically play him dumb as a rock, right? His life is real simple. He just likes to hit things with his axe, right? And that basically means that it's freeing in a way to play that way, where you don't have to think too much about what your character's going to do, right? It's just like their reaction to most things is, can I hit it with an axe or can I spend it, right? In terms of it's loot or it's something that's an opponent, right? So those kinds of things. But yeah, so for me, it's like I never take the character that seriously. I don't build characters with deep dark backstories and all the craziness. When I get the opportunity to play the game, I play the game for fun, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's pick a character concept that's going to be fun based on the setting you're in. And they vary, right, in terms of what they're doing, but it's always about having fun. So, for me, maybe I don't take it seriously enough. Maybe I should have a deep dark story around the characters, but I don't.
Nah.
I'm actually quite the opposite. I overthink my characters' backstories, like the relationships, and I like writing.
Yeah,
I like writing characters.
In backstory, and sort of we discover it as we go, right? I probably don't set before the first session, put a lot of thought into it, but we'll discover the character as we go. But the point of playing the character is it's a game, right? It's supposed to be fun, right? So it's like find some quirk that you can latch onto and make it fun, right, for yourself, whether it's whatever it is, right? And so that for me, that's the trick. And different people play different ways, so it's like it's fun, right? I've had players at the table that are very serious about what they're doing, right? But for me, it's like I play for fun.
Right.
All right. Well, that's probably a great place to pause and take a break so we can let our guests get up and stretch and refill drinks and all of that good stuff. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 5 to 7 minutes or so, and we'll hope you stick around. We've already got a couple of questions to start with after the break, so we will get to those. If we haven't answered your question yet, we will start in with those, and we'll see you in just a few minutes.
Awesome.
Cool, thanks.
All right, we are back from our break. Hope everybody had a good little break right now. Let's see. Let's dive right back into some questions. So we got a question from Tolmac, and I have a feeling we are going to run the gamut on this one. The question is, what experience do you think you missed in previous versions of D&D?
What I feel I miss, or what I missed from previous versions of D&D, and I got into 5e, and so like all these previous versions are like these things from the past that I don't have that much experience with, but like I feel like I missed like the opportunity to have that like very hard character crunching kind of gameplay style where it's like every last hit or every hit could be your last, and like kind of living on the skin of your teeth, because like 5e is great, but it's also like very easy to survive in that game, and I don't know, it'd be nice to like have the fear of death in me for a bit.
I can
know how to
dig
word
it.
that better.
As I've mentioned before, I am, as you can see from the wall behind me, a bit of a collector of older edition material.
What?
No.
Yeah, so I got basically all of the Eberron stuff. I got a decent chunk. I got all of the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons book, more or less. There's just some wild stuff in previous editions. I'd have loved being able to play like Eberron and 3.5. I'm sure there's still games around that I could get onto, but my schedule's so whack. But there's so much like cool, weird stuff in earlier editions. I remember there's a I think it's a barbarian. It's either the capstone or it's an ability you get just before capstone, where you can just summon like 50 barbarians onto the field as an ability. And I think that would be the best way to destroy a GM's plan, where they have like this kind of, they have this big moment, you're surrounded, outgunned, and all of a sudden the barbarian starts to like yodel, and then like 50 to 100 other barbarians start surging around the countryside and like overtake.
Okay, wait. I have to ask. So you're saying outgunned? Are you outmanned, outnumbered, and outplanned?
Oh, well, I would say everything but the last one, because the barbarian always seems to have 50 to 100 other barbarians on lock on speed dial. So
I had to throw the reference. Every time I hear somebody say outgunned, I'm like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it.
Alexander.
Yep.
I think the one of the two things that I miss, each from two different editions. 3.5 of Dungeons and Dragons, I miss prestige classes, which I think were actually might have been around in third. They were kind of a cool like late game way to like advance your class. They're like the subclass, but one level more advanced than that, because they had a lot more specific requirements, things you actually had to do in the story in some cases to become those subclasses. Like, it's not just like, oh, get enough XP. It's like, it might be discover an ancestral weapon or defeat a fire elemental, things like that.
Yeah.
And then from 4th edition, I do miss minions. I do miss having waves of enemies with 1 HP, and I sometimes still use them. Not frequently, but like when I really want my players to feel like the badasses that they should be, especially as they level up. I think it can be really fun to just put like 20 minis on the table or on your virtual tabletop. Cough, cough, shard. And just see like your characters like really feel powerful by being able to go and swing through them. So I'd say those are the two things that I probably miss.
Sure. So the prestige class, I know at least one publisher that's built those into 5e, right? That there's a set of classes you can multi-class to after you have a certain number of levels in the core class, right? So if you have 10 levels in Paladin, you can become Knight of the Order of whatever, right? That's a prestige class that has 10 levels in it, and same there. I know at least one publisher that's done that. And minions is, hey, that's a game master's prerogative. Like you said, you can decide that you're going to put things on and have, damage from a single strike apply to multiple targets and all that sort of thing. Those are there's nothing in 5e mechanics that says you can't, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
I don't know a whole lot about previous versions of D&D. I played a little bit of like 2E when I was really young with my dad and his friends, and that was me just throwing a die and being like 6, and they're like, cool, you don't do anything. And I'm like, cool. So what I really think I've missed out on is a lot of math, and I'm okay with that. So
I mean, we could pull you into a Pathfinder First Edition campaign, and you would not feel like you're missing anything.
I don't like math, so we're just gonna not.
I started playing D&D in 3.5, so I got a little bit of everything, I think, in that regard. So I missed out on THAC0. I don't think I'm sad about that, but I don't really know, because I never actually used it. I heard a lot about it, though. Like you, Anna, my daughter used to play when I played 3.5, because I started playing, like, when she was a newborn. And she would basically do the same thing. Like, she would come to the table when it was time for a fight, and she would roll her die, and her miniature was a little ceramic bunny that came out of the Red Rose tea box. And she would roll her d20, and she would, whatever it was, and she'd move her little bunny around the map, and then she would go back off and do her thing. So
Yep.
But yeah, I played a lot of 5e when it first came out, and then I got into playing Pathfinder, and so my 5e usage has dropped remarkably over the last 2 years, so I don't really know what I'm missing anymore.
Well, 5e isn't a problem with the game mechanics. It's a problem with the sameness of the materials you're looking at depending on which publishers you're looking at, right? If you pick up some of the third-party publishers, there's lots of great material out there, right? That is completely flavored differently than the so-called official Wizards material, right? And there's lots of great 5e material out there. So,
yeah, I think one of the most kind of on point memes I've seen recently about D&D is it's a picture of the realm of Faerun that all of the 5e D&D takes place in, and it's this teeny little circle around the Sword Coast, and then everything else it says the Forgotten Realms, because there's no adventure ever set. I mean, I've got a bunch of the adventures here next to me. I love me some official settings, but there's so many other places, and it's wild how much everyone has focused on this one area with like 2 capital, maybe 3 capital cities, and you never go anywhere else. I have some of the older material where they actually have like the Forgotten Realms guide, and they have like the huge map, and it's so big, and they used to fill all that stuff with so much stuff. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This is so old. The cover is ripped off, but this is the Forgotten Realms Atlas, and it's just filled with map after map after map.
So many maps, and then they had all other settings taking place in Forgotten Realms. So they had problematic settings to be fair, but like Karator, Al-Qadim, and then like more and more. And now they're just like, no, we're just going to focus on like Baldur's Gate, Waterdeep. Like that, just general vicinity, and that's frustrating. I think a little bit.
You could have an entire campaign set in Baldur's Gate and never leave the city.
Yeah.
I've been running a game in Waterdeep for 2.5 years. Like I'm not criticizing anyone who does that, but there are times like I'm waiting for an adventure to be set somewhere that's not within walking distance of one of those 3 cities. Give me a Kalimshan adventure, like down in the desert. That would be so cool.
I dig it. The only thing that they really have right now is they have Chult, Tomb of Annihilation. That's about it, but it's a very small piece.
Yeah, and that's why to pitch Shard for you, Hal, if you're not going to. That is one of the reasons why I'm so excited about all of the third-party folks that you guys are bringing with the Kickstarter. Is there are a lot of really unique places that fit right into any 5e game. You don't have to go and catch up on books and books and books, but they're in really varied settings, and they add lots of new even variants to the rules, which is
I was just
one of
going
the
to
things
ask
I'm
about
most
that
looking forward
actually,
to.
because I know Shard's using a lot of third-party material, so I was going to ask about how that fits in with the official campaign stuff.
No, so I mean, so official. It's interesting, right? There's obviously a publisher that owns the Dungeons and Dragons brand, right? But 5e is an open game license set, right? That anybody can publish for, right? And there's some quite good publishers that have published a lot of material for it, right? I mean, Colwell Press, who's our one of our largest partners in the space, has incredible settings, right, for Midgard and Margrave and all the different regions of their world and settings and so forth, and they have very interesting sort of feel to them, right? Sort of Central European mythology, kind of thing, right? And then Peterson Games does an entire Cthulhu setup, Lovecraft setup using 5e mechanics, right? It's they added things like dread and insanity and mechanics for that stuff directly to the 5e system, and it's really well done, right? And they have formula casting and kinds of things you would expect in that setting and that sort of stuff. And so they have 4 complete campaigns written for their sets of rules, right? So they will bring them all over to Shard. Troll Lords has stuff that has a much more old school feeling to it, right? Rather than a single campaign, it's a series of modules that are kind of loosely linked together that the game master can figure out how to put them together, but a very rich world setting that they're set in, right? And that sort of stuff that has literally 400 pages of lore. Like if you missed the old Forgotten Realms Atlas, pick up the Codex of Aird, right? And read through what the history of that world is, because Stephen Chenault's a fantastic writer, and Troll Lord Games has done a fantastic job with that setting. So there's lots of smaller publishers that have great stuff. I mean, Realm Warp is doing the whole Fallen Camelot, which I know people are playing that campaign. I don't know, Nick, if you ever played a session that came over playing over on the UO server.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's fun, right? And
I don't know. Let's not play that. Tis a silly campaign.
So wait, Hal, I have a very important question. Will your setting have tunnels and trolls support?
Oh!
I have this box set. I've had this box set for a couple of months now. Very hard to take the rules on Roll20 because.
This is now the second time he has showed this box set on this stream, let me tell you.
Don't know anything about the rules, but we have thought about, like, because obviously anybody that's not officially licensed by Wizards can't use the D&D brand. Having a brand of sorts that related to our stuff, and if the other publishers decide to do it, we might, right? So because 5e 5th edition role playing is kind of doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, right? So that a different brand might come along. And the reason that your assertion made me think of it is one of the candidates was Tombs and Trolls.
Maybe a ripoff of the ripoff. I see. Interesting.
I didn't know the other ripoff existed, so.
Yeah, didn't you find that at like a yard sale or something?
I found it at a half-price books, and I couldn't say no to it. I picked it up. They taped it, which I hate, but it's like it even has the dice in it. Where am I going to find like 30-year-old dice? Look at these. Like, come on. It's got like handwritten notes, probably by some like 10-year-old kid. It's amazing.
I love it.
Would buy again. 10 out of 10.
There you go. Perfect.
So, out of curiosity, and I don't know what you guys think, are you sort of getting the vibe that Wizards might be moving away from like the setting and trying to make D&D a more like a system as opposed to a lore or I'm trying to think of how better to say it. Basically, like Savage Worlds, for example, you can pick it up and drop it into any setting and use it that way. From what I'm hearing right now, it kind of sounds like that's almost what Wizards is trying to do with 5th edition, is they're trying to make it so that you can just pick it up and use the rule set in any setting. Does that seem like what they're trying to do, or am I a little off base on that?
I mean, that's
Well-
been in true first edition, right? I mean, the reality is the rules, the mechanics of the game are independent of the setting, right, and so forth. There were lots of settings in first edition,
Yeah.
right, and most everybody built their own. So, the reality is even in fifth edition, right, Wizards official published books that got Ravnica and Eberron and Wildemont and all these sort of different settings. Although, admittedly, each one has one book.
Yeah.
Right? So, they haven't kind of followed up on any of those things to actually give you more material about it, and at least for a couple of them, they've managed to make it, because they did them with third parties, make it so that the guild can't even do new material for those settings. So it's it's really so yeah. And then of course other publishers have tons of settings for the same game mechanics, right? If you know fifth edition mechanics, you're going to love Cthulhu, right? If you love that sort of setting, you're going to love it.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Well, Brianna had a question. Going back to friendships in D&D, what's an unlikely friendship you have made through TTRPGs?
I will take this moment to plug my lovely boyfriend. We actually met and started dating through TTRPGs online. I put a call out through Dice Tyrants, and I was like, hey, I'm running a 10 Candles game, online, streamed, I need players, anyone in? And I get this message from a bunch of different people, and he happens to be one of them. So our first ever experience together was me running a 10 Candles game and killing his character's husband in his arms, and apparently that was the moment he realized he had a crush on me, which I think is weird and slightly concerning, but that's kind of how Robbie works. So that's probably the best friendship I've gotten out of TTRPGs, is that random happenstance encounter at the beginning of quarantine where I was like, I want to run 10 Candles. Who wants to join me? And it just so happened I found him.
Very nice. Laughing
So
in
I
chat right
think-
now.
I think I've made a lot of really cool friends through Twitter and through like the podcasting world. But I think on a personal level, so I went to a friend's wedding about a year and a half ago. And I met up with a friend that like we always like whenever we hang out, we have a great time. And then his name is Tony. We would hang out, we'd have a great time. We'd always tell each other, we would like, hey, let's hang out the next time, blah, blah, blah. We'll do something next week. And then we never did. And at this wedding, we were talking about something, and I was talking about my podcast. And he's like, yeah, I don't know about Dungeons & Dragons. And then somebody else came. I was like, oh, Dungeons & Dragons. I've been playing that. He's like, oh, really? It's good. Like, should I do it? And like, we kind of convinced him. And now I'm talking to him almost every day about like D&D stuff. We play like every week. And like, because of that, he brought some friends into it, like some real frat guys. It was hilarious. Like, I did not think they would like the game at all, but they love the game. And they're probably some of the best role players I've ever played with. And I never would have thought it. A bunch of like dude bros from a frat, and they're just like so into it. And they're all got their own games popping off now, and some of them have taken up DMing, and now that friend group is even like, I've expanded into that friend group even more. So it's been like a good way to connect with people, especially now with like COVID. It's like the one Zoom call I look forward to in a week is whenever like I get to hang out with some of my friends. And I think you can't even put a price tag on some of that friendship.
Yeah. Now I've made a lot.
Well, mine's
go ahead,
Nick,
Hal.
so. Mine and you, Nick, right? Because we without what we were doing around Shard, you and I never would have met, right? And,
Yeah.
and that sort of stuff, and Jess and the whole crew over there and everything else, right? So it's like, yeah, I mean, two of us hang out now and talk about how to grow the community and do strange things and play the occasional one shot together and stuff. So yeah. Absolutely.
No, it's true. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's kind of what I was going to get at, this idea of like making connections, especially during COVID, has been so important, I think. And I have made friends with people. I mean, Luna, this is like my third or fourth Tales. A lot of the other folks that I've met through Twitter, I had to explain it to my mom recently. I was talking about my friend, and I was like, okay, Mom, when I say like David, I'm talking about my friend David. And she's like, the guy that you met through through your D&D game. And I was like, well, we didn't play D&D. And I have to like walk it through like, no, he's from another podcast. And then she's like, okay, so he listened to your podcast or you listened, and it's this whole thing. And like now, the very first person that I reached out to on Twitter before I created the Know Your Role Twitter account on my old personal account, I reached out to Shannon of Paradise, and I was just like, hey, I've been seeing your name like pop up on my feed, and I just want to say like it's awesome how much like positivity and enthusiasm you bring. And I basically asked her for like advice for someone who wanted to start a Twitter account like focused on the TTRPG community. And like now, a year and some change later, like Shannon sent us like a Christmas present for our daughter for like to wear like a really cute onesie that has a DM on it, and it's a giant dice that says Future Dungeon Master. And it's so surreal to think that like at the very end of 2019, I was sending a message to her as a stranger, just asking for advice about like what's a great way to like make my way into the community. So, I mean, I could sit here for another hour and talk about like all of the other people that I've become friends with through this. So it's been really, really great.
I would have to say pretty much anybody that's come on Tales. I talk with a lot of you guys regularly via Twitter or otherwise. I'm in a giant group chat with Nick's wife Hillary and Shannon and Caitlin from Arcane Spectacles and Manda and oh my gosh, who else? Like there, Star Shinobi, and there's a whole bunch of us that are all like we met because of playing TTRPGs and being part of the TTRPG community. And now it's, like it's literally like these are the ladies that, yes, I have my in-person best friend that's like my, she's my rock, but like these are like the other ladies that I go to when I'm like, oh my god, I need advice and I need help, or I just need to vent, or or like, hey, we all have we've got great news, or we want to share this thing, and it's just really, it's really, kind of, to use your word, Nick, surreal to think that, a year and a half ago, these were people that were just names on Twitter, and now, like, we're sending each other Christmas cards and, things like that. It's amazing. It's really, really amazing. So.
Yeah. Does anyone have? I feel like Sanctum. It was kind of hard to follow that up. I mean, you met your your boyfriend. I guess, does anyone have any other ones of people they met before the pandemic? Because I know that's where so many of us like have met since COVID. Like Hal, you said you and Darren go way back, right? Were you all friends through D&D or?
Yeah, high school basically. Like we, first, sophomore year of high school or whatever. Like we started hanging out together and we both played D&D, so that was kind of one of the initial connection things, right? And then we just started hanging out together, and we've been sort of best friends since '82. So like that, it gives you an idea of how those connections go, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, basically, we spent entire weekends in high school together, like playing from pretty much Friday when we got out of school till 2 a.m. Monday morning, ready to go back, sort of thing, right? That sort of stuff. So yeah, playing D&D or programming were basically our full-time hobbies during high school. So yeah. So and now both, right? We're back to it, programming, D&D, all these years later. So absolutely.
The thing is, I usually just play with people I already know, people I'm already friends with. So D&D, there's not really anyone I've become friends with through D&D, but D&D is like a way I've like been able to keep in touch with some friends, because with adulting and being in different cities and having different schedules, having a moment to just get together and play a game is way we connect and stay in touch. And that's why I've been kind of mostly quiet for this question. I got nothing to give.
Well, you met all of us today because your connection to the TPTRG. So
there you go.
Exactly.
And actually, I've made a lot of friends through the Dice Populi server. So
Yeah.
Discord server, so there's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say Dice Populai's Discord is always busy. Like, there's always people in there. It's pretty cool.
As a community manager, it's a lot of work.
Oh, I can imagine.
I know. Yeah, Ryan. I've been working with Hal over on the Shard Discord, and I'm very excited to see them grow. But I'm also like, as the list every day, as more people join, I'm like, okay, all right, we're gonna need some more moderators. It's just like, I mean, once you start pushing into the hundreds, it's tough. I can't imagine how people with like thousands on their servers.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. There's a couple of servers that I'm on that I don't follow too closely, but there is a like indie podcast one that has like hundreds of people on there. And I'm on an Eberron one that has like a couple of thousand, and it's just impossible to track stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of just have to pick your moment to like put something in it or
I'm on
respond,
that
and then it just
Eberron
gets
one.
buried.
I know.
Yeah.
Huge.
My best friend and I, like my in-person best friend and I, actually met not totally through TTRPGs. We actually met through a Facebook group fan page for the Dragon Age game, the original Dragon Age game. And it was one of those things where, just a bunch of people were in there, like, commenting on a post about weather or something very innocuous. And she happened to be like, oh, we're in the middle of this huge snowstorm. And I was like, no way, me too. I'm in New Hampshire. And she's like, I'm in New Hampshire too. And we found out that we only lived an hour apart. And so we just started chatting on Facebook, and then it became, hey, have you ever played D&D? Well, you should come over to my house. And then I invited her to join the table, and then a couple months later, her now husband actually joined our D&D game. They ended up meeting there, they got married, now they have a kid, and they live a mile and a half down the road. So...
Nice.
All right. Well, then I will jump to the next question. Let's see. I want to make sure I don't miss one. No. Okay. So the next question we got actually is from Rob. How do you all prefer to run social encounters? Do you like to keep dice rolls to a minimum or have skill checks regularly?
Depends on the group for me. I mean, some groups are really comfortable, like, running most of it as a role-played encounter. Right, and that kind of stuff. Others are like, okay, what check do I need to make? I'm trying to persuade this person for this. Right, so it's usually a mix, I guess, depending on what's going on. It just depends on the group, right? But my preference is to actually keep them to a minimum, right? To actually, let the characters let the players in character reason through whatever's going on in those interactions.
Yep.
Yeah, I try to keep the dice rolls to a minimum. Like, usually what I do is like have the dice rolls happen for like deciding moments, or like moments that could go one way or the other. But like if it's like I persuade the guard, or roll the dice and then role play what the dice says, or just talk to the guard and if what you say is good, it's good.
Yeah, I think I agree. I like to keep it to a minimum. Keep it pretty fluid, unless I like to only keep it to die rolls when you're trying to actively influence somebody without having like a card to play. I just want to convince them to do this, that, or the third. You're not like, you don't have anything like blackmail or anything like that. I like to, if you're gonna like impose your personality, I want there to be some form of personality check. Yeah, I like to keep it to a minimum for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm just to tag on to the minimum train. Yeah, I mean, to the extent that like if your party is just going and like back and forth, I will usually not try to stop it to do a roll, with an exception for if a player decides to tell a really big lie, like a really impactful lie, or to try like when you get to a really big turning point, and even then, if they've done a really good job of building the lie or of building to the persuasion, I will absolutely cater that, factor that in. Like if you've done a stellar job and you roll, I don't know, a 14, I'm not gonna be, oh hey, sorry bud, the DC was 15, he doesn't believe you. Like I kind of do my own little internal adjusting. If if you just walk up to the guards and you're like, the king sent me, give me your weapons, like that's not like a natural 20 isn't gonna work on that guy. So yeah, I like to like build up to the conversation and wait for those like key critical moments and then try to decide from there.
Yeah, for sure.
Next question.
All right. Big B's, what is the worst item one of your characters has ever received?
Well, that's a thinker. I've received some bad items before.
Worst.
I've also made a bunch of bad items before and given them to players.
I mean, I will
have
say
one that was.
Go ahead, Sanctum.
I was gonna say I have one that was like simultaneously the best and the worst, only because I didn't know what it did. So in my old 5e game, I played a very dumb half-orc named Alona. I loved her to death, and her whole thing is she was trying to live up to her mom's expectations. And one of the party members got a like portrait of her mom because he could basically went into the afterworld, talked to her mom, saw what she looked like, got a painting done. Except the DM had him get the painting done from someone who made like live portraits, so the painting's eyes would move, and then like when I would wake up, the painting would be in a different position. And I had no clue what was happening with that painting. So it was both simultaneously the best and the worst because I was constantly paranoid I was gonna wake up and have to find a painting version of my mother.
Oh my god.
I was terrified.
I'm thinking, so not too long ago, one of the campaigns I run is an Out of the Abyss campaign. So they're all in the Underdark, and they're supposed to be like I like to add a lot of homebrew elements. I like to use the stories as kind of like a baseline and then build up everything around it. So they were supposed to just kind of leisurely stroll into a certain part of the Underdark with like a bunch of fungus, but I wanted to make it like creepy, weird, and I wanted a MacGuffin of some kind because I wanted to take that MacGuffin away from them so they could be like angry about it. So they found a sword, like it was supposed to be like a legendary sword, just like this obviously evil, super evil sword. There's a bunch of like dead people like trying to grasp at it, and like all of them are dying or dead people surrounding it. And the thing was that every time it was like a D4, it was a sword, but every time you killed a monster, it would gain an additional D4 of damage. So with no cap, because I was going to take it away from them like 2 sessions later, and they can't kill a million things in that time. But when I eventually did take it away, they wanted it so badly, the party, that it drove them to attack a demon lord. And of course, they were like level 6, so it did not last long. They basically were immediately raffle stomped into the ground, all over a stupid sword that they weren't even really supposed to get. I mean, they were supposed to get like attached to it, but they weren't supposed to be like, well, time to die for this thing.
I would die for that sword.
So in a way, I would like to call that my worst item because it did lead to that was my first TPK too that I'd ever had. I'd killed off individual people before, but I'd never like killed the entire party. And like, what are you gonna do? You shot a fireball at a demon lord. They're not gonna be like sing kumbaya and let you go. They're gonna like murder you.
That's true.
I think there are a lot of game masters watching right now that are gonna copy that idea, right? It's a magic item gets progressively better, right? And until you take it away from them, and suddenly it's not. Yeah. Somebody that every time you use a wand of fireballs, it adds an extra D6.
Oh yeah,
right?
And they'll go insane when you take it away from them. I wanted that, but I didn't think they were gonna kill themselves, basically.
Yeah. I won't say this is the worst magic item I've ever received, but I never had the opportunity to use it. This was in the campaign where I played the gnome mage I referenced, or gnome wizard Felix. I got a homebrewed item that my DM gave me called the Orb of Double Bounce, and the idea of the orb was it was a bouncy ball basically, and every time it bounced on the ground, it doubled in weight. And so at a certain point, obviously it would become too heavy to bounce, but I was like an 86-pound no, not even, sorry, like an 86-year-old 40-pound gnome. And I always came up with all these like really wacky ideas in my head of how I was going to use the Orb of Double Bounce. Like I was going to levitate and then bounce it on something and knock it down. And I probably had it for like 2 years. And I just pulled up my character sheet. It's still there. I've never used it. And it's haunted me to this day. So if anyone in chat has any creative ideas for how they would use a bouncy ball that doubles in weight every time it bounces, please feel free to share in chat.
Make a dragon eat it.
Okay.
There you go.
Just wait till he flies.
Bounce
and
it down that esophagus.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Really, really hard, so it bounces going both ways.
Yeah.
Easy in, very hard out.
Exactly.
Skipping rocks thing, right? You skip it at a creature, so you when it starts, you can throw it, but by the time it bounces 6 times, basically,
I hadn't thought about the momentum.
yeah. By the time it bounces 6 times, suddenly that thing is going to hit with whatever it's against.
Awesome.
Find a way to like have it bounce, have it like bounce enough times that like it'll basically have so much mass that like it has a gravitational pull, and eventually so much mass that it creates a black hole and just kill everybody.
I'm thinking, just go to the top of the highest staircase in the city and just bounce it like a slinky.
There you go.
Yes, exactly.
At some point, though, you're going to break the stairs.
Planet destroyer. At
Yeah,
that point.
That is one of those like magical items that could very easily destroy the planet. I remember reading something on Reddit one time that there was this magical trap that every time you ran up a stair, you would go twice as fast on the next stair and then the next stair and the next stair. And then one of the characters had like expeditious retreat and all this other stuff speeding them up. And the DM took out a calculator to figure out how fast he was going at the end. It was like 36 stairs. And found out that he had broken the speed of light and caused the Big Bane, and he started to rewrite the campaign right there on the table for a new one.
I can't remember the name of this gimmick, but it's based on the whole idea of like a round being 6 seconds and being simultaneous. And it's like if you line up 100 commoners and you have each of them ready their action to like throw a javelin, and the next one grabs it and throws it to the next one, it basically creates like they'll throw it at the sound of speed or the speed.
The common railgun, I think, is what it's called.
Yeah. I've heard of that one. I love that.
Yeah, common railgun.
That's amazing.
All right, worst item. It's something like my character like requested like had commissioned in character. So he's the warlock I was talking about earlier. He's kind of like this very flamboyant, rich kid who's just a big old twit, and he commissions these boots, these thigh-high boots that are like something out of like Final Fantasy or something, right? And there's nothing really special about these boots. He just wants to be fashionable, and it takes like, and it's told that like he needs to wait like 2 days for it. So what do we do during those 2 days? We take a little side quest and like clear out some spiders in this dungeon. The problem is these spiders were strong as fuck in the sewer, and like we nearly died so many times. And there was this one spider that could like move through planes and dimensions, and that was the whole thing. And basically we almost got killed for these fuckboy boots, and I think that would qualify as a pretty worst item. They're not magical or anything. They're just regular boots.
I was gonna say, did the fuckboy boots require attunement, or were those free balling, or what?
Nope. Nope. They're just fashionable.
Well, there you have it. All right, this is probably my favorite question I've seen in a long time. Tolmac would like to know, what is a real-life moment that you have rolled a 1? I already know my answer for this one, so I'll let you all sit on it for a minute.
That's an endless list.
There's so many things.
I can think of. Wait a second. Yeah, I think I can. I'm not going to use any names for this, but only Hillary will know who I'm talking about. Someone came to our wedding with a new girlfriend of theirs, and I was very frazzled that day. You know, we were getting married, and it was like 95 degrees, and we were outside, and so I was like, "Oh yeah, okay. Hey, by the way, it was so great to meet you." And I called her by the name of his last ex-girlfriend, who he had been dating for a very long time. And their names were not similar at all. And I was just like, I'm really sorry about that, but I gotta go. Bye. It was an absolute natural one charisma check. It was horrible.
I mean, my most recent was like last night when I went downstairs at like 4 a.m. to get water and missed that step, and you just go sliding straight down like 18 stairs. That nat 1 dex check was really what happened last night.
Nice.
I stood up. I was traveling from New Hampshire to Chicago for a work training. First time I'd ever been to Chicago, was traveling alone. And stood up on the plane as I arrived at O'Hare and threw out my ACL and ended up having to have surgery the following January. Totally tore it.
Rough.
Yep.
It's about on par for just being in O'Hare, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fair, but...
I think mine, I was going over, this is for a Pathfinder game. I was going over to a friend's place. This is like a couple, maybe 2 years ago. And to prep for it, we were making like, he had a big sandwich bar, and then we were doing mixed drinks. Somebody had the idea that we were going to do gin and tonics. That would be like the drink of the day / evening. So we're kind of like doing it for brunch. And my friend, he had gone to Costco and bought this huge thing of gin. Like if you go to Costco, you can get like the Costco sized gin and vodkas and stuff that are like basically like a gallon, and they're huge and they weigh a million pounds. Like, you know what? I got my sandwich ready. I'm ready to play games. Let's get a gin and tonic. I'll make some people some gin and tonics. On the first one, I'm like, I cut everything up, almost cut a finger while doing the lime. Just like I grazed the fingernail. I'm like, all right, I gotta collect myself. Gotta do better. Gotta be careful. I'm then pouring all the stuff. I get this huge bottle of gin, and I'm trying to like pour it into the glass. And as I do it, something slips, and my hand goes forward. I knock the glass, and somehow or another, I managed to get covered in gin. I managed to catch the big one. I like put it down, and then as I'm trying to fix everything else, I knock the bottle of gin again. Almost causing it to tip over, like spills out more gin all over me. So now I'm just sitting there. Everybody's just watching me. I didn't break the big thing of gin, which was good. I would have been so embarrassed. That dude's place would have never smelled right ever again. But I'm just like coated in gin. Like my shirt is just covered. I'm like, look like I just took like a jump into a pool. I smell boozy, and I don't even have a usable drink at the end of it. So I just, as everybody's staring at me, I just kind of turn around. I'm like, you know what? Maybe somebody else could do drinks. I'm going to sit over here for a little bit.
That was one of those where it was like a nat 1, and then you get like an 18, and then it's back to a nat 1.
Yes.
That was your succession.
So embarrassing. Yeah. So embarrassing.
When the dice rolls and you think you're like, oh, nope, it's a 1.
Yeah. Spins for a little while. Yeah.
So let's see. Probably, the drinking story reminds me of this one, right? It's got to be 3 or 4 years ago now. One New Year's Eve, right? We had a bunch of people over, and like we're big into wine. We own part of a winery and that kind of stuff, and so we had a bunch of wine open, like tons of stuff open, right? But Darren, my co-founder, brings this bottle of George T. Stagg We're from Kentucky, right? So bourbon's a big thing, right? And that kind of stuff. He brings this thing, and deep into the evening, we'd been drinking for a while or whatever else. He decides we got to get this bottle of bourbon open, right? And so we open this bottle of bourbon, and like I'm the dumbass that decides to do more than one shot because everybody that I want to see do a shot insists that I do one with them, right? This stuff is 140 proof, so even as like high as my tolerance is, by the end of the night, I was just dead. That's like the Nat 1 intelligence check of the evening. You've been drinking too much. Like, you know, probably the worst I've ever been. Like, you know, dexterity check. Okay, everybody does that. Nat 1's on intelligence. That's something you just like, that's a life moment.
Oh, man.
So this is a learning moment. I learned something.
Yeah, I learned something. Exactly.
Okay, so not
Exactly right.
not one intelligence check. So like, I'm going to school one day, and like there's a shortcut through this person's backyard, and the problem isn't that the person cares. Like they don't mind people using their backyard to take a shortcut to school. The problem is that it rained recently, and the ground was like super icy, and like I'm standing there going, should I go around or should I just cut through? And I'm like making a calculated choice, and I suck at math apparently, because I decided to cut through the icy field, and I slip on my ass, hit my head. The attempt at getting up is just me slipping and sliding, and it's just like, this was a terrible decision. Why did I decide it? Like, the Nat 1 wasn't even in like the slipping and falling, it was just in the decision making.
Yep. Exactly.
All
I was
right.
still late to school, so
That was a great, good question. Good question,
That
Patrick.
was a good question. He was very pleased by our answers, so, you know.
Yes, he was sitting on his throne just...
I know. I think he was waiting to find something that he could illustrate next.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, we are about at that time where we need to start wrapping up, which is very unfortunate, but I feel like this hour went super fast. We did have one question that we did not get to tonight, so what I will do is post that on Twitter tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. I will post that from the Shared Experience Twitter account so that you all can answer it if you would like to, and anybody else can chime in as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just have everybody go around again and remind us of who you are and where we can find you on the interwebs and all that good stuff. So, Anna, we're going to start with you and go the other direction this time.
Hi guys, I'm Anna, also known as Sanctum Cosplays. You can find me on Twitter, Sanctum Cosplays. You can find me on Instagram. That's where you'll see all my cosplay stuff. Right now it's more focused on special effects makeup because I don't currently have any cosplays in the works because I'm waiting for the world to open back up before I spend $500 on a piece of clothing that I wear outside sometimes. Other than that, you can catch me sometimes on Nerd League Gaming. I do some TTRPG stuff over there, as well as on Dice Tyrants. They're kind of switching some things over. They got some new shows coming up, super exciting, so I'll be popping in and out of there. Other than that, I'm currently in between games, so I don't have a regular game or podcast. Hint, hint, if you guys need guest stars anywhere on games or podcasts, hit me up. But yeah, other than that, that's where you can kind of catch me. You can catch me on all of the backlogs and see that character that I was crying about in their YouTubes, because that was...
Sob.
Cry.
Yeah. All right. Well, Anna, thanks so much. I'm glad we finally worked this out so that we can be on together. And, I will definitely reach out again in the future about having you back on at some point. So
Definitely. This was fun.
Yeah. Nick, let's go to you next.
Hey, my name is Nick. You can find me on Twitter on NickPlaysDND. I play Relic on Know Your Role. You can find 30 episodes of that available on our Twitter, which is in chat. And I realized I meant to give two other quick shout outs. The Twitch channel that I'm planning on launching, even though I don't have all the details sorted out, the very first game I am going to run will be with 3 friends of mine from the Tightgeist podcast. Anyone who's familiar with Know Your Role, we had a guest star named Samaj who played a fun character named Confession. He's part of that podcast. So we're going to start off with them. and I'm very excited to share some more details about that when I can. The other thing is I have been working with a couple other really great creators in the community on an upcoming supplement on DM's Guild called Disaster Hamsters. Luna was able to playtest that. I made the maps for it.
I love it. You did a great job.
And thank you. And I'm really excited for, once we've worked out some of the kinks from playtesting, to see that go out in the world. I think it will be early to mid-March when that should be out in the world. But yeah, so thank you again, Luna, for having me on.
Yes, well, thank you for coming to hang out. And yeah, if you get the chance, look up Disaster Hamsters. It was super fun. You play as adorable little hamsters. True story. And
looking it up now, hamster.
if you aren't convinced to play it by the cover art alone, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was definitely great to play test it, and I am excited for it to release. One of the things that was very fun about it was when we played it, you can play it as a standalone, but one of the things that we were told, Samuel DM'd it from Plot Hook's podcast, and he was like, also, you could drop this into a currently running campaign and just your characters wake up as hamsters one day. And we all went, oh my god, that's brilliant. So yeah, so definitely be on the lookout for that. And let's see, next
were you in the group that caught the cage on fire, Luna?
No, we did not do that. I was in the very, very, very first playtest group, so
okay.
Yeah. So Ryan, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, you can find me at Ryan_MOSSB, or I spend a lot of my time on the at Dice Populi Twitter handle. Dice Populi, the podcast I'm a cast member of, we are rotating dungeon masters, so each arc, one of our number takes the DM seat and the rest of us play through, so you can kind of experience a lot of different GMing styles, and everybody kind of gets a chance to kind of steer the ship, and then of course it kind of like wiggles and waggles, hopefully towards a meaningful conclusion. Our Discord kind of officially launched like a couple months ago. It's been booming and it's been really fun. We also just launched a Patreon like last month. It's been going really well as well. But yeah, just reach out. I also, just on a personal note, just like Ben over at Lawful Great, I love to be guest on podcasts and streams. If you need somebody to join up and you like to bring a really dumb character that's going to do stupid stuff, let me know. I'll fill that hole. Like I love doing that sort of thing. But yeah, and I think that's it. Yeah, that's it.
And Ryan is a lot of fun to play with. I will vouch for that. So, yes. And next we'll go over to Hal.
All right, well, I'm Hal. I'm one of the co-founders of a thing called Shard Tabletop, and we have a beta currently live and a Kickstarter going right now. So we appreciate your support over there. But you can play with the tool for free. Nick is our moderator, and what he didn't say during his own part is he actually has an upcoming adventure launching on our platform as well. So March is going to be a busy month for him because he has, a nice adventure that he's been working his butt off on to get done, and it looks really good. So I can't wait to play it, and that will actually happen in March as well. And maybe he'll convince this crew to come play test it with him. You never know. We all like play a game together.
I might be up for that.
Nick can screen, and we'll all play test his adventure.
I would be happy to help.
Super down for that. Super down.
Yeah, so one of the things we're really happy about is that we are partnering with a lot of smaller creators or people that are first-time creators and that kind of stuff, because while, we love the partnerships with Cobalt Press and Peterson Games and the folks that have been in the industry a while and that sort of stuff, the reality is, for me, it's really about giving new creators a chance and a platform to launch their stuff where they actually own their own intellectual property. Unlike some other platforms you can publish on, you actually do own your own stuff when you publish it on Shard, and you're free to publish it on any other platform that allows you to keep those rights. So that's we're totally up for helping people get started. You'll notice that a lot of the stretch goals in our campaigns are from small and independent creators that are getting paid to provide those things as stretch goals for our campaign. So they're all getting a healthy chunk of change to come out and support them as well as us. and we really appreciate everybody's time and attention. So thanks.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks so much for coming on and hanging out with us tonight. And best of luck with your Kickstarter. It seems like it's been going really well so far.
Yeah. Like most, the first couple of days were gangbusters, and now we're just, we're trying to figure out what the next step is to get that chunk of audience in. So
excellent.
All good.
And last but definitely not least, we have Chowder.
Hi, I'm Tamil Chaudhary, or Chowder, whichever you prefer. You can check out Dice Populi, much like Ryan. I'm a part of that. You can also find me on Twitter at Tamil Chaudhary. I'm also a part of a podcast called The Common Geeking Program. And you can find us at commongeekingprogram.com or at our Twitter at Geeking Program. And, check us out, because we have a final episode of Final Fantasy VII Remake coming out on the 19th of February. So, yeah.
Nice. Is it bad that every time you say Common Geeking Program, I want to sing the little jingle at the end of the podcast?
Common Geeking
Program.
.com.
Yeah.
And on that note, I am Gaber Bob Luna. This is Shared Experience. We have 2 shows currently streaming. We have Tales from the Tavern every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, which is our nerdy roundtable discussion where we have guests from all over the TTRPG space come and hang out and answer your questions. And then on Wednesday nights, we have our Pathfinder First Edition campaign, which is 50 Shades of Crimson. That is a Curse of the Crimson Throne adventure path, and we are soon to be adding a Star Wars Fantasy Flight game to our roundup as well. That should be starting, we're hoping January. Art got a little delayed, so we're hoping mid-February at the latest. We shall see. So keep an eye out on our Twitter for more information about that as that comes. And we are going to go raid some good friends of the channel. We're going to go say hi to our friends Beard and Bride. They're doing a nice chill stream with some Stardew Valley tonight. And they are... Actually, Josh is wearing a Shared Experience hoodie right now. So
Nice.
So we're going to go drop a line and say hello to them. But thank you all to our guests, and thank you all to chat for your great questions. And we will see you all next week.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Luna.
Ciao.
Thanks, everybody. A lot of fun.